In Texas, 2013, a man mowing his lawn was stung over 40,000 times. His lawnmower was still running when rescuers arrived. That is not the worst attack on this list. What you are about to hear are 5 real attacks, ranked from devastating to nearly incomprehensible. Each one reveals something different about what makes Africanized bees unlike anything else alive. And the attack at number 1 has a detail that no one who reads about it ever quite forgets. These bees weigh less than a paperclip. They carry no venom more potent than a standard honeybee. Their sting, chemically, is nearly identical to the European bees in most backyards. None of that matters when there are 80,000 of them. In Texas, 2013, a man mowing his lawn was stung over 40,000 times. His lawnmower was still running when rescuers arrived. That is not the worst attack on this list. Africanized bees respond to a perceived threat up to 10 times faster than European honeybees. They recruit the entire colony within seconds, and they will chase a target for over half a mile without breaking formation. A human body begins experiencing systemic organ failure at roughly 500 stings. The man in Texas received 80 times that. The bee does not do this out of rage. It does this because it works. This is simply what the job requires. A woman jogging a desert trail near Tucson disturbed a colony nesting in an abandoned rodent burrow. The entrance was flush with the ground. She did not see it. Within 3 seconds, the first wave was in the air. She ran. She covered approximately 400 meters before the swarm overtook her. She survived, but received over 200 stings in under 2 minutes, primarily to her face, neck, and scalp. Doctors noted she was saved by 2 factors. She did not fall, and she reached a neighbor's car and sealed herself inside. The swarm worked the exterior of the car for over 20 minutes before dispersing. Africanized bees do not lose interest quickly. That is a documented behavioral trait, not a figure of speech. The colony had registered her as a threat, and the colony does not reassess that decision on your timeline. She required hospitalization for venom load, 200 stings. She considered herself fortunate. She was correct. 3 horses died on a ranch outside San Antonio after a tractor disturbed a colony in a fence post. A fence post. The colony had been there for months. Nobody knew. The tractor operator survived by jumping from the vehicle and running to a barn. He was stung approximately 150 times. The horses could not run. They were stabled. All 3 animals died within 4 hours. The estimated sting count for the largest horse was over 5,000. Horses have no mechanism to communicate to a swarm that they are not a threat, and the swarm, operating on chemical alarm signals alone, does not interpret surrender. The rancher lost 3 animals worth a combined estimated $30,000. The colony responsible was the size of a basketball. A 72-year-old man in Albuquerque was working in his garden when he unknowingly disturbed a colony in a disused water meter box. He jumped into his swimming pool to escape. The swarm waited. This is a documented behavior. Africanized bees will hover above water and attack the moment a target surfaces for air. He surfaced. They stung. He submerged again. He did this repeatedly for an estimated 10 to 15 minutes before a neighbor heard him and called emergency services. He received over 300 stings. He survived but suffered temporary kidney damage from the venom load, a condition called rhabdomyolysis, where venom proteins at sufficient volume begin breaking down muscle tissue. Doctors noted that his age and his decision to keep submerging were the 2 variables that determined the outcome. Younger lungs, just enough air, just enough time. The swarm was still active at the property when responders arrived. They were wearing full protective suits. The man recovered. He moved house within the month. Larry Goodwin was 62 years old. He was mowing the grass on his property near Moody, Texas, a town of approximately 1,400 people, when his mower disturbed a colony in a neglected outbuilding. He was stung an estimated 40,000 times. That number requires a moment. A lethal dose of Africanized bee venom for a healthy adult is generally considered to begin around 500 stings. The median documented fatality involves somewhere between 500 and 1,500. Larry Goodwin received 40,000. His neighbor, driving past, saw the swarm and stopped to help. She was also attacked. She survived with over 200 stings. She described the sound as a roar. His lawnmower was recovered still running at the scene. Emergency responders in protective gear could not immediately approach the body. The colony was still active. The coroner's report listed the cause of death as anaphylactic shock and venom toxicity. Larry Goodwin had no prior known allergy to bee stings. The volume alone was the mechanism. This was not a remote wilderness. This was a man mowing his lawn on a Tuesday afternoon in central Texas. Everything on this list traces back to one building. In 1957, a Brazilian geneticist named Warwick Kerr was attempting to breed a more productive honeybee for tropical climates. He imported 35 African honeybee queens from Tanzania, a subspecies that had evolved over millions of years in an environment full of honey badgers, aggressive predators, and competitors that made extreme colony defense not an overreaction, but a survival necessity. He placed them in an apiary outside São Paulo. A visiting beekeeper, unfamiliar with the protocol, removed a set of screens designed to prevent the queens from escaping. 26 swarms escaped. Within 10 years, Africanized bees had spread to Argentina. Within 30, to Central America. By 1990, they were in Texas. By 2000, they had established permanent colonies across the American Southwest. Today, they occupy an estimated 8 million square kilometers of the Americas. No eradication program has slowed them. The United States Department of Agriculture spent years attempting a genetic barrier in Panama. Selective breeding of European bees to outcompete the Africanized population. The Africanized bees moved around it. Here is what makes this the #1 entry. Not because of a single attack, but because of the scale of what those 26 swarms became. Conservative estimates suggest that Africanized bee attacks have killed over 1,000 people in Brazil alone since 1957, with thousands more hospitalized annually across Latin America. In regions of Brazil, they have killed more people in a given year than all snakebite fatalities combined. These are not wilderness statistics. These are farmers, children, people walking between buildings. And here is the detail that no one forgets. The bees that escaped in 1957 were not bred to be killers. They were bred to make honey. The aggression, the pursuit behavior, the rapid recruitment, the refusal to disengage, that was not an experiment, that was what they already were, what they had always been. Warwick Kerr did not create a monster. He relocated a professional. The African honeybee evolved for 50 million years in an environment that demanded maximum aggression in defense of the colony. Every predator, every raid, every competitor shaped a bee that responds faster, pursues longer, recruits harder, and does not stand down until the threat is gone or the colony is dead. When that bee arrived in South America, it did not adapt to a calmer environment. It made the environment adapt to it. In most regions where Africanized bees have established, they have displaced European honeybee colonies almost entirely, out-competing them for food, outbreeding them, and in some cases simply taking their hives. This is not aggression, this is efficiency. And it works at a scale that no intervention has yet interrupted. The most remarkable thing about the Africanized bee may be this. Left alone, in isolation, it is a pollinator doing what bees do. It makes honey. It tends its colony. It does not attack. The issue is that its threshold for deciding it is not being left alone is extraordinarily, almost incomprehensibly low. Vibration, shadow, carbon dioxide from a breath at close range, a lawnmower engine 20 meters away. Any of these, on the wrong day, at the wrong colony, is enough. And the colony is already in your neighborhood. 5 attacks, 1 laboratory accident, 8 million square kilometers. The Africanized bee did not set out to become one of the most consequential species introductions in human history. It was doing exactly what it had always done. It was defending its home. The problem, as Larry Goodwin and 1,000 others could tell you, is that its definition of home is very, very broad. If this list left you with a question, specifically what happens inside a human body when venom load crosses a critical threshold, That is the next video. What bee venom actually does, organ by organ, and why some people survive counts that should be unsurvivable. Subscribe if you want to know the answer. It is not reassuring.